If you find yourself trusting your gut because it's been right before, but right is exactly the thing you've been measuring wrong. A hitter never has this problem in baseball. His batting average is honest. It counts hits, nothing else, across the whole season, and he can't argue with the number. The number is the number. Your gut is supposed to work the same way. Every decision at bat, every result feedback, a career sharpening your instincts the way a season hands a hitter a real number. But you keep your own scorebook. You mark every win as good judgment the second it lands. The trouble is that a skilled call and a lucky call produce the same win. In your book, they look identical. Train your gut on that for 30 years, and it grows certain about things that were never true. I know because I trained mine that way. At 28, I won, and the win felt like proof. I was at a company called ThumbScan, and I took a piece of government security technology that we had acquired and repackaged it for the business PC market, and we called it PCBoot. PC World Magazine named it Security Product of the Year at COMDEX in Las Vegas that year, in front of the whole industry. I drew the obvious conclusion. My gut was good. I could see what the market wanted before the market even knew. And except I didn't see it coming. In early 1988, computer viruses became a front page news article. The New York Times ran it on the front of the business section. The story spread to nearly every paper in the country. And overnight, every company in America decided it needed security. My product was already built and sitting on the shelf at most of the computer stores. And it was all ready to go when the panic arrived. I had built a solution that needed a problem, and the people writing and spreading those early computer viruses are the ones who handed me that success. It was nothing I did. I hit the timing right, and the timing was purely lucky when the panic hit. It took an honest audit years later to admit that, and at the same look turned up the opposite story. I had to look hard and really rip the scab off. The other ThumbScan product was the one I was the proudest of. It put fingerprint security on personal computers. The first one under $1,000 that you could attach to a PC. Your thumb instead of your password. The reasoning was sound and the technology worked. The market wanted none of it. PCs were barely in homes yet. Biometrics sounded like science fiction, and the company just bled cash and eventually folded. That product wasn't worse thinking than the one that won the award, so the ThumbScan fingerprint device versus PCBoot, they were both great products. One won the award. It was the exact same thinking aimed at an idea that turned out to be 25 years early. Today, it sits on every phone, and hundreds of millions of people use it before breakfast. And today, and I've talked about this in past episodes, the US government still uses the underlying technology that we created with ThumbScan into the fingerprint systems used by the government. I wasn't wrong about the concept. I was wrong about the clock, the window, and the clock runs mostly on luck. The award and the bankruptcy came out of one gut, separated only by a year each idea landed in. What I did years later has a name. I ran the version of events that didn't happen, stripped the results off of every decision I had made, and looked at what the decision, the call I had made, looked at it cold. That's what I call counterfactual thinking, and it's the whole skill. Now, it is uncomfortable because the result already handed you a verdict, and now you're reopening it. It's the only feedback that makes you better at identifying and predicting those next innovations. So, why do your results lie to you? None of this is your fault. It's a measurement problem. Your gut got trained on bad data and it had no way of knowing. The most decisions you've stacked up, the more confident it becomes. And confidence built on bad stats is worse than no confidence at all. A junior person knows they're guessing. 20 years in, the guessing feels like knowing. Your own record is full of the same thing. Wins you credited to your own judgment when it really came down to timing or to a competitor's mistake that you had nothing to do with. Good calls you stopped making because one of them lost, even though losing was always on the table. And the call was still right. It was the right call, but the timing just worked against you. None of that is carelessness. You recorded every result accurately. You just recorded the wrong thing, and then you trained on bad data. The world also is not helping you. Every outcome now arrives with its explanation already attached. 10 confidence takes by lunchtime, most written backwards from the result. Look at the result and then do a backward write-up of how you got there. I covered that warning in a post that I wrote about called Hindsight is Not 2020. So go back and run the audit on yourself. Rebuild what you knew on the day you decided, set the result aside, and ask whether the call still holds up without it. Now, the hard part is doing this to wins, because taking apart a success while you're still proud of it feels like bad manners and bad luck at once. That's the reason your wins are where your most lessons hide. So, let's talk about this for a second. You just watched me run this backwards over my own record. I pointed out, I may have thought I was this brilliant product guy on PCBoot when the guys who launched the first computer viruses handed me the win. Now, it points to two other directions also. The first is sideways at everybody else. The same move works just as well on decisions that are not yours. When a rival's bet pays off, the instinct is to run over and copy it. When it craters, the instinct is to swear it off. But stop at the result. Rebuild their decision the way you rebuilt your own. Say a competitor ships a feature that takes off, and 3 teams in your space scramble to copy it. What they miss is that the feature didn't carry the launch. It landed the week the category leader had an outage, or every angry customer went shopping because of that outage. Copy that same feature into a calm market a year later and nothing happens because you copied the move, not the moment. You're hunting for the hinge, the single thing that overcame outcomes really swing on, and it's rarely what the headline is credited for. It's not what gave the great results. Get this wrong, and you don't copy a rival strategy. You copy the luck that came with it, and luck doesn't travel. Just because your competitor was lucky doesn't mean you are going to get that same luck. Next is also think about pressure testing your next decision. The other decision is forward. We look sideways, looking at your competitors. Do you copy them? The other is forward, into a choice still in front of you. And it's where the skill pays you back the most. Most of us pick options by their best case. You picture each road going well and take the one that goes best. Now turn that around. Walk every option forward until it falls apart, because every option falls apart somewhere. And the ones you can't picture breaking is just the one you haven't looked at hard enough. Pull in the alternatives you're already talking yourself out of, and count doing nothing. Since that's a choice also, most of us say, I got 5 choices. Which are the 5 choices? What if I just sit back and do nothing? Then decide on the part nobody likes to look at. The downside you'd have to live with. A modest plan you can walk away from, that's a brilliant one that takes you down with it. So Think about that. If you take a bet and you can still have some downside recovery, that's probably the bet you take versus you're going to bet the farm and it's going to take the entire business with it. Most decisions that seem obvious stop seeming that way once you walk the alternatives all the way out. The ones that still look right after that walk are the ones worth making, worth testing, worth experimenting. So let's talk about a practice exercise. Now, this is a drill that matters most and the one that most people will skip. Pick a win from the last year, not a loss, something that worked that you've been glad to take credit for. Write down what you knew the day you decided. Only that, nothing you picked up afterwards. Now, run that version where it went the other way. How close did it come? What would it have had to break differently? Now, answer straight. Be honest with yourself. In my case, had the computer viruses not hit the market, would my products have sold on their own off the shelf at major retailers? No. But so answer yourself straight. Be honest with yourself. Good decision or good result? If it's hard to sit with, you're doing it right. If it's making you uncomfortable, like, oh man, I've got that on my LinkedIn profile and I've written about it. I use it in my openings or my introductions at major keynotes or whatever. We're getting into uncomfortable space here. The wins you can't bring yourself to examine honestly are the ones costing you the most, because in the back of your mind, you know you're taking credit for luck. A good decision and a lucky one keep looking identical until you do the work to tell them apart. Do that work often enough and you stop mistaking the breaks that fell your way for things that you did well. Over a career, there's most of the gap between people who get reliably good and people who just had a good run. Take the time, look at it hard, identify those two pockets, and then train your gut on the good data. That is the key. Keep a log. Every good decision, every product you launch, every idea that moves forward, every proposal you pitch, look at what the decision you made, what the outcome was, and then take an honest look about everything around the edge that could have influenced that decision. And be honest about what was really your part of that decision versus luck. With that, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.